What's up, guys? We have a game with the white pieces against Repejnik. So we open up with e4 and he responds with b6. He fianchettos. We seize control of the entire center. If they let us, that's what we do. We now develop a piece. This protects the pawn, which he was threatening with his last move. He develops by opening up a diagonal for his second bishop. The drawback, he's not staking claim in the center, so I'm okay with that. I simply develop a knight. I have two minor pieces out towards the center. He goes h6, ugly move. Does not develop a piece, does not threaten anything, very slow. We get a free developing move, we thank our opponent. We simply castle. Now our king is safe. He's not even close to castling. He didn't even start. And we have control of the center. Two pieces developed. I like white here. It's that simple. 5 moves in. You can't play like this unless you really know what you're doing. If you're rated 1750, you don't really know what you're doing, so don't do it. Bishop d6. What does this threaten? Nothing. Drawback. Walks into this. I think he wants me to do that so he can retreat and say I opened my bishop, but we don't have to do that this turn. We can do it when we want to do it. So I'm just going to develop and ignore and leave this terrible piece here. Like, what's it doing there? We can gain more of the center. That looks interesting. We can simply develop a knight. I'm going to develop my queen, which may look a little weird, but it stays across from the king. It also protects this pawn a second time. It also prepares to put a rook against his queen, where my queen is against his king, so I have the right piece against the right piece. He develops this knight. What does it threaten? A little pressure on the center. Drawback. Covers his bishop's diagonal. Covers his own c-pawn, which can no longer fight for the center. He might be trying to go here, so we'll keep that in mind. Okay, we could go c4, we could go c3, we could develop our knight. If we push this in the center, and he moves his knight somewhere, and we open it, I don't really see the point. Let's continue developing with a c-pawn, a knight move, or bishop. Let's see. C-pawn is kind of committal. If he goes here, we can't drop the bishop back to anywhere where we can keep it. So for the time being, let's just go c3. Take this square away from 2 pieces. Support the center with a pawn so I don't need to defend it with a piece. And we can just put our pieces towards the king side and prepare e5 with a king side attack. So he retreats his bishop. You see, I didn't have to kick it. He didn't provoke me. I didn't fall for it. He wasted time going here and then back. Obviously, there's no threat, and the drawback is he wasted all the time. And he's no longer on this diagonal, which means now I can put my bishop here, which is preferable to e3, which is kind of weird. So I don't block my knight. I can potentially start with this. If he kicks me and I drop back and he kicks me again, I guess I'll just jump forward. If he takes me, it takes me. I'll just do that. Let's go that. Okay. Also, he moved back because he wants to develop his knight, and he couldn't do that because there would have been a fork. Now he can do that. There won't be a fork. He'll actually have a good square. So you don't want to push e5 just yet. Maybe after he castles. So he develops the knight. What does this threaten? Pressure on the center. Maybe he'll push. Maybe he'll kick our bishop. If we want to keep our bishop, we can play something like h3 on this turn. It's a potential move. Otherwise, developing the knight seems reasonable. Which one? Well, I don't mind keeping the bishop pair and creating some luft, so I'm going to go h3. We don't have back rank issues. We have a nice cubby hole, and it controls the g4 square. So he does go for this. It threatens the bishop. The drawback is it weakens these dark squares, and he kind of can't castle there now. I didn't consider this. I do have this if I want to give up the bishop, but let's just say he kicks it, then I have to give it up this way. I'd rather just keep it. unattackable, and it will forever cover all of these squares from afar. He goes to the side. What does this threaten? It threatens, I guess, to place the knight here and maybe to push the f-pawn. Drawback is it undefends these two central squares, moves to the side. He's trying to attack my king, so I wonder if I can counter in the center towards his uncastled king. Also, this knight is currently undefended and my queen x-rays it. This, I take a pawn, he takes a piece, I don't get it. This, he hits my queen, I take, he takes, he takes, I take. It's a weird position. His rook has access to my pieces. It's not the most impressive thing. If I kick the knight, I think he doesn't really have anywhere good to go, and I think it breaks on the square you want to break on. You don't want to do this because it doesn't accomplish anything. This looks good. I think d5 is the way to go. I think it's the way to punish kingside play when your king's still in the center of the board and you put a piece on the rim. I think now's the time to strike in this area. See if you can make something happen while his knight's off sides and his king is right here. Now I'm breaking open this construction towards his king. My bishop actually controls a lot of squares. And I can put a rook here. I understand my knight's not developed, but I can't let him do everything he wants to do while I casually develop. I have to apply pressure while I can. So he goes back. What does this threaten? Nothing. It just opens up the bishop to apply more pressure. Well, it threatens the pawn. The downside is he's putting the knight back home, blocks the rook. Obviously a bad move on developing. If we take it, he'll probably take this way. Maybe is my guess. But I don't necessarily want to trade my strong pawn for that pawn. So what else can we do? We can try to centralize a piece. If he takes, and we go here. Actually, no, our centralization comes with a big threat, so he has to address it. If he jumps in here, and we take and he takes, and we take here. I can't imagine any of this being good for him. I just can't. We can also develop, and if he takes, we can push past. I'm going to jump my knight in because it comes with a tempo, so it's not a waste of time, even though I'm moving the same piece twice. It comes like this. He does hit my queen. I can't really move it because the bishop's hanging, and there's no big threat I can make. So I kind of have to take, which I don't mind giving up the bishop. The real issue is that you open up the g-file for his rook. That's the real problem. However, it doesn't have to be a problem. For example, f3 might just take care of all problems. But I may have stronger moves. Queen h5 protects the pawn, puts a lot of pressure. He can't really develop, but I'm running out of time again. Always running out of time. I'm just gonna go queen h5 because when I take here, it also pins the pawn. So if he takes back, I can actually win that pawn. So right now, queen h5 threatens the e6 pawn, which is not obvious to some people, actually, because it doesn't look like it has anything to do with this square, right? But if you draw lines that chain all the moves together, you pull one string, the other side of the board gets adjusted. And if you look at the center, the four central squares, does he have anything there? No, we have two pawns and a knight. The evaluation has to be crushing here. Now, with 20 minutes, in a classical game, you win this every time. With 3 minutes, I lose it every time. But this is a wonderful position. I want you to look at this, and this is what you want from your games. You want to have these 3 out of the 4 squares occupied, So he goes here. What does this threaten? Nothing. It just solidifies the dark squares. Drawback, moves that piece again. He's not developing these. He's not castling. It also undefends this, so I can maybe do this in the future. Also, there's a pin here, so it's a little weird. But anyway, I think, like I said, this pawn, take, pawn's hanging. He takes my bishop, but then his bishop's hanging. So let's go for that since I'm running out of time. I realize these are undeveloped, but his king's in the center. So I'm breaking rules because he's already broken so many that I'm able to punish him. And if you just play regular chess, as if your opponent's also playing regular chess, you're not taking advantage of opportunities, and you're not going to be as strong of a player. You have to know when to just develop and when to be more aggressive. And you learn with experience and making the wrong decisions. Going for attacks when they're not really there, you need to do that. Alright, that's how you learn. Right now, I'm under the impression that my position is so dominating, I don't need these. So he takes, but now I take. I could maybe even throw in this check, see whatever. Then I hit the queen. He has to respond with his queen. Whereas if I take this now, he moves his queen here. But then I also have, not only is his bishop hanging, this check is hanging. Although I don't like that. I'm going to give this check just so if he wants to take my bishop, it has to be like this and not with the queen. I think it's a more accurate move order that takes advantage of the fact that when I go here, he has to move his queen, but he no longer has queen takes bishop. So I'm going to throw that in because this is pinned. And now, like I said, he cannot go queen takes bishop. And that's the big difference in this line, because now when he moves his queen, I will have the time and luxury to do what I want while not being down a piece for that specific turn. Whereas if he moves his queen and then I do something and then he takes the piece, that's a whole nother turn I get. Okay, so he just moves his queen here, which I guess defends this and this. Not a bad move. And threatens my knight. Pretty good move, actually. So am I threatening anything here? Check. I could check and reroute it, but that seems kind of lame. I could protect it and add more pressure to this square. That's interesting. Let's do this because our bishop was hanging and this blocks all of his pieces. It protects this, and when we move this, it adds another attacker here. So after I take here, he can't take with the pawn because of the rook, because he moved his knight back and his king's not castled. And when I take here, if he takes with the queen, I'll then check him, and then throw in the rook check. Checkmate. If he goes here, checkmate. Looks like I have a lot of threats. I mean, yeah, mine are here, but his are here, right? Mine is here, his is here. Mine's better because I have a pin that that's affecting the game. Mine can be useful. His bishop's useless, mine is useful. His bishop's useless, my knight's very useful, right in his face. So clearly white's just much better. Again, he has nothing in the center. And the reason you want the center is so you can launch something like this. So you can throw your knight on e6 and have him not even be able to take it. Right? Like, look at this piece. It looks ridiculous, but he can't do anything about it. And it covers everything. So he tries to develop this way. What does it threaten? It's just a developing move. So we have to be quick. We want to be quick. We don't want to let him do anything. So I think we're going to take this bishop. It's a free bishop. Unless I'm missing something. Because he either hangs the rook or the f7 pawn. Although I guess, is it checkmate now that he moved his knight? Let's see. Check. He has to go over. Rook. If he doesn't sack his queen, he has to go over. Check. He goes over where the knight was. And I mean, we have this check, but then he can, let's just go back. Okay. What if I check him this way and he hides behind his queen? That's useless. So let's definitely go this way. He has to go here. His bishop's hanging. That's something. And he has no threats, so I could take the bishop, which would then threaten the rook and the knight. If I go here and I give him a check, he's forced to go here. Do I have a better move? I have check. He goes here. I go check. If he goes back, I have bishop here, mate. So he has to block with the knight. And then I don't have another dark square attacker. So let's just take his bishop and threaten everything. And then we can bring our rook over. There might have been some mate or whatever, but whatever. I mean, how does he get out of this one? He can't legally castle. He has no threats unless he goes here. Although it hangs the rook, I wouldn't even take it. You can literally take this rook and then that rook, but I wouldn't do that. Maybe I have a checkmate now. Check. Now he has to go the other way, but my bishop supports it, so that's mate. Okay, so taking the bishop is also a mating construction with insurmountable threats. And now you can see why sacking a pawn doesn't matter, because let's say he's up these 2 pawns, right? Like let's say I was down 2 pawns to get this position. The pawns have nothing to do with this position, right? What matters in this position is tactics. Is he getting checkmated? King safety? How many pawns you have isn't going to determine the game. So now you know that you can sack material to get certain positions because that material has no bearing on the game. Alright, so anyway, he moves the rook, but I think this falls for the checkmate. Unless he gives up his queen, so let's do this. Don't automatically just take the piece, because you will make your life a lot more difficult than it needs to be. A quick look-see at the game to see if there's anything egregious that I've done. See, already here the engine says it's plus 1.7, 1.8, and I'm not up material. I didn't do anything but bring out 2 of my minor pieces. And so this is what happens when you let your opponent take the center. I don't care how much you like Fiendcados or how much you've seen your favorite streamer do it. You are going to lose your games because it's not good when you let your opponent take the entire center and you don't, within the first move 3 to 6, attack that center. If you're not going to take the center between moves 1, 2, and maybe 3, then you need to, like in hypermodern openings, then you need to be attacking that center for moves 3 to 7, let's say. He's not attacking it. He's just letting me take it and then not attacking it. Clearly, you're just much worse there. Hold on, d5. He moves his knight somewhere. c4. Yeah, I guess you could have done it immediately. That's true. I'm surprised they even have e5 as a move. e5, not here. I'm guessing bishop here, but like, why not wait? I don't get it. Why do it now? So anyway, what did I do? Okay, h3. We're still rolling. Is that a move? Yep, it's definitely a move. He kicks this. We drop back. I thought he was gonna push, which was the point, but he didn't. If he pushes, I can't let him break my structure, so I have to take. He takes. Alright, I mean, that's something. So he goes to the side, and yeah, the best move clearly is to now attack in the center, now that he relinquished control of the square. That's why it's important to look at the drawbacks, or how the board has changed, because when you just say, okay, what is the drawback? No longer defends these 2 forward squares, or even this one. Can I use these squares? Well, yeah, now I can push d5. Boom, d5. He goes back, already plus 2.3, but a lot of times white players mess this position up. They don't know how to keep the initiative going. So acceptable moves to me, let's say, would be c4, because you're solidifying your strong point. You don't want to get rid of your strong point unless there's a clear advantage. Another developing move, bringing the knight in, or let's say improving your other knight. Those are good moves. So I choose this one. He jumps in. You basically have to take. You can't leave that knight there. He takes back. Still plus 1.7. Again, I happen to find the best move. And how did I find the best move? Well, not only did I ask myself what are the drawbacks with his last sequence of moves. His last move was this, right? This g pawn has, because it's not on g7, these squares are all weak now because the pawn can no longer protect it, all of these squares. And so when you look at it like that, you see there's never a g6 option. And you, even if you ask yourself, you know, what's a good looking forcing move, there's only so many in the positions. This is a forcing move, pawn takes pawn, but it's not necessarily good looking. There's not really many other forcing moves, like queen f3 hits the pawn. Queen h5, like I mentioned, threatens the e6 pawn indirectly, so it's a forcing move and it's extremely good looking. So that's what you play. That's another useful question to ask yourself on an open board when you're trying to find moves. What's a good looking forcing move? And look at those options, and those are your candidate moves. So okay, we take, of course. Now we should just be crushing because his king's cover got destroyed. I threw in this check, but wow, I was obviously, my plan was to take the pawn, and then of course I was gonna say he's gonna take this, we're gonna take this, and then it'll be his turn, and we're +4 here. So why is bishop here not +4? King e7. King e7. Oh my god, that protects the pawn with the king, with the king. So you don't have this sack. That would still bring his king out here, which is batshit crazy. But I'm still underdeveloped, so he can get away with it. I mean, I'm still better, clearly, but okay. So I wouldn't take in this scenario. So what would I do here? I would very likely want to bring in another piece. The queen is here, so I could bring in the knight and put it here, which looks very nice. But since the queen is here, I think I might go rook d1 first. If he moves the queen somewhere. Yeah, maybe, I mean, maybe the knight is just a slow piece, and he's gonna move the queen, so there's really no point. Either way, that's interesting. Okay, so basically, if you move the bishop, you don't get to take the pawn if he played accurately. You're still obviously a lot better because his position's garbage, but this just taking the pawn just clearly wins, so he misses it. We both missed it because that's a funny move, king f7, which now allows me to take the pawn, and I'm back to just crushing +3. He doesn't have any moves here once you're +3, and yeah, you just defend. Basically the only real move, but it's kind of obvious. Of course we just take the bishop, of course we just take the pawn. Okay, this is a mating construction, but so's my move. Bishop e6 is +48. My move was only +18. I lost 30 points there. That's a lot. Okay, now it's mate in 13, so I calculated that. I'm surprised he can hold on for 13 because I calculated mate in 2. Okay, it's still 13. Oh, because he has to sack the queen. I see. Yeah. Otherwise, it is mate in 2. Okay, so I can't really find a point where I just totally did something ridiculous. I guess the bishop check throws away my advantage. I have to be more cognizant of ridiculous king moves, I guess. Overall, pretty fun game. Pretty easy to logically talk and explain it to you guys. Hopefully a lot of that made sense. A couple inaccuracies, but no big deal as far as for you guys are concerned. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned something. Submit your rapid games for review. Good luck.